Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Office Bloke Aidan.
Here we are, Office Bloke Daz Sports Edition. Doing a bit of Stadium Grift.
What is this?
Stadium
Grift?
Grift. Don't know. This is by Urinating Tree. I don't think you've seen Urinating Tree's channel yet, have you?
I've not.
It's a brilliant channel. Absolutely sound channel. People
Sound?
will probably agree as well. The guy's funny, breaks it down well, talks well,
Yeah,
with
that's
a
good.
lot of humour in it as well.
That's good.
But knows
I
his
like
football
that.
inside out.
His what?
He's big on football. I've seen him on football videos.
I was going to say it looks like baseball to me. This
Well,
one.
it could be anything. So this is
sure.
the Great Stadium Grift. Don't know what to expect.
I don't
think
have
he's
a
going to
clue.
talk about stadiums and where people play, which is what we always like.
I love stadiums.
And we like Urinating Tree, so let's have a go at this, eh? The Great Stadium Grift by Urinating Tree.
The spectacle of sport is something that everyone strives to have. Many cities cherish their teams, and those that don't have them covet them greatly. Your town's name highlighted in the stars, with all the prestige and honor that comes with it. Sometimes it gets to the point of desperation. And as we all know, desperation leads to disaster. It's a tale as old as time. A professional sports team wants a new place to play for a litany of reasons. And either the city in question or a new fling bends over backwards to please their target. The soon-to-be former Oakland Athletics are the newest benefactor of the bureaucratic reach around. John Fisher wants a new shrine for baseball, and to be fair, he did need one. However, his $1.5 billion dream will be getting a cash infusion from the state of Nevada and Clark County.
Moving.
To the tune of over $300 million in the form of tax credits, financial bonds, and the works. They're also building the park in one of the most sought-after areas in the Vegas Strip. It'd be bold enough, but
So it's going to be the Las Vegas.
It's going to be the Las
Athletics.
Vegas days. Yeah.
Oh.
Clark County also threw a gargantuan $750 million to get the Raiders to come here. Over $1 billion in public spending. All for the privilege of hosting a limited number of events per year. It's one of the finest grifts of our time, where cities throw caution into the wind and be lured in like a bug towards the light. Roughly 9 in 10 professional stadiums and arenas in the Big Four sports have some semblance of public funding, and some go to exorbitant lengths to do it. Two other future victims of this phenomenon are Buffalo and Nashville. The Bills have been playing in an old stadium, and they could use a new place to call home. So how does a $1.4 billion masterpiece sound? Becoming a championship contender tends to ease the financial sting. It honestly better, because Erie County and the state of New York are shelling out $850 million in public funds for it. The Titans, though, they just had a stadium built about 25 years ago, which had over 9 figures of public funding invested into it at the time. However, either due to cheap construction or the changing whims and needs for a stadium, it became dilapidated. Renovations themselves are going to cost a shitload of money, so why not get the best in the league instead? A $2.1 billion stadium, fully domed, equipped with the best of the best. And it'll be publicly funded to the tune of $1.26 billion. A record that will probably be broken in the near future. It's crazy on the surface. They threw all this money at them for what? The Super Bowl every 10 to 15 years? And maybe a few other events in that time frame? For at best 15 days a year? That's going to generate over $1 billion in revenue? What about Buffalo? They're not even building a dome. They'll never get the big ticket events because the NFL wants a controlled environment. Even for a few marquee events, this is the madness of it all. The spending doesn't really do much to support the local area. The argument that team owners give towards governments helping out with construction is that it's a mutual partnership. The teams they own are seen as destinations for a city, luring in tourism dollars and boosting the regional economy with their presence. Which is true, if you're a sports bar, supermarket, or a memorabilia store. The problem with that theory is multifaceted. First of all, most cities are banking on an increase in tourism to buoy the public funding. They dream that the teams will attract fans from all across North America to see their beautiful shrine. But look at it logically. How often does that really happen? Most of those that attend matches are locals. Think of it as an economic coefficient. There's a set amount of spending capital in a given area. Most things that have a major impact on it are the likes of a recession or boom, new companies moving in, emergence of natural resources, and so on. What I'm saying is that a stadium doesn't add much in terms of new spending. It merely reallocates the spending that was already being done. The emergence of one business will take away from another. Going to spend at a place around a stadium will take away from an already existing area. Spending on Sunday will lead to budget cuts throughout the week. It's the nature of the beast. You don't even have to take my word for it. There are countless studies from better people than I suggesting that the economic impact of a new stadium on an area is a crock of shit. You also have to consider, for a lot of teams, that they themselves keep most, if not all, of the revenue generated at these stadiums. Taxes are raised and funding secured for a mere pittance of the rewards of game day. Socialize the cost, privatize the benefits. business proposition that would make Warren Buffett look like an amateur. If those were the only problems, it would suck, but it would be tolerable. However, there's another factor that's greatly overlooked in initial estimates. Cost overruns. If you look at any project worth a damn, public or private construction usually doesn't go as planned. There are sometimes weather phenomena that ruin things. Sometimes the cost of supply skyrockets through the roof. Or perhaps scale creep comes into view. This usually tends to run to the tune of hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars. Olympic Stadium in Montreal is a classic example. There were so many delays and setbacks that it cost almost 2,000 times its initial estimate.
What?
Locals call it the Big O for a reason. SoFi Stadium, for another example, was supposed to be roughly a $2 billion project. The final cost shot up to around $5 billion. It's an inevitability.
Double.
And do you believe that the teams are going to pony up that cost?
They
More than
spend
double.
$3 billion more than they spend $1 billion more than they were like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like $3 billion they spend.
I get the need for new stadiums and for improvements and all that, but the cost factor that goes into it, especially when it's public funded, so the government are paying towards it or putting a substantial amount towards their sort of like to attract people into their economy for their area.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've got them over when we've got them over here. They have to be built. We've got one been built by the government with the FA, Wembley. And they have to host all the games there because they can't afford to have them somewhere else because they owe so much money on it.
Yeah.
And there's so much money that's outstanding and the amount of investment that's gone into it. That's why, when we've got it this year where you've got a southern team playing a northern team in a Charity Shield match or an FA Cup final, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And both teams, all the fans have to travel from the north, and then they have train strikes that go on at the same time. So no one can. Then they say you can only use certain motorways to get down there because other fans from the other. Well, we played United and we had to go to London.
Yeah.
So all fans from Manchester had to travel to London for the FA Cup final, which was ridiculous. When we were both in the same area.
We got given like different motorways.
We had to give different motorways, yeah. So there's no trouble.
Yeah.
Madness. But this is great breakdown. This really with the spending. SoFi Stadium was a $2 billion project, went into $5.1 billion.
That's what
So
I'm saying.
more than
That's
double.
crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that.
Cost, yeah, in your dreams. Most of the time, those overruns fall at the feet of the taxpayer. It's the driving force of many anti-stadium proposals. It benefits very few at the cost of everyone else. Why do you think personal seat licenses are a thing? Why do you think many states have legalized gambling? It's in order to pay for the public shares of stadium building. And in many cases, it's a necessary evil. Call it unfair, call it corrupt, but this is a pay-to-play game. Consider it like trying to get a career in media. The hours are shit, the pay is dirt poor if you're lucky to get that, and the industry is cutthroat. Yet if you choose not to play the game, there are at least 25 other people that will gladly take your place. A few cities had to learn this the hard way. St. Louis, Baltimore, Cleveland, Oakland, Houston. They all lost franchises at one point or another, yet still felt an urge to play the game. In the end, it cost them even more money than what the original owners were asking for to get it back. For St. Louis, it wasn't enough to keep them for more than 2 decades. The Nashville, Charlottes, Jacksonvilles, and Las Vegases of the world? They'll throw everything they can to woo a professional franchise over. In some cases, like Memphis in the Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium, Kansas City in the T-Mobile Center, and even Quebec City in the Centre Videotron, the franchises never come. So they potentially get a building for concerts, but few major sports in general. The supply of teams is low and the demand for the intangibles they bring is insatiably high. If you're an owner and you have the power to flex your muscles, why not use it? That's why teams reach into the old bag of tricks and whip out the classic move the team gambit. In baseball, Tampa Bay was a long-time threat for many teams. Jacksonville, Memphis, and Baltimore were big ones for the NFL for a while. Seattle and the NBA? Oh yeah. The option to move to LA gave so many NFL teams brand new stadiums they should pay the city royalties. The Bills threatened to relocate to fucking Austin, Texas for crying out loud. Sure, some people will talk about how it screws over a city, but grease a few axles, barrel some pork into the bill, and it'll get passed with ease. So the A's got their funding secured. Some stadiums, like MetLife Stadium and Gillette Stadium, you'll argue weren't publicly funded. They're the aspiration! You're conveniently ignoring the 8 or 9 figures of public dollars that went towards infrastructure improvements around the area. They'll get you somehow. Gotta give the corporate cock a few tugs to get the rewards within. But these stories always have a dark side. Truist Park, for example, got almost $400 million in public funding. The Braves pay roughly $6 million in rent per year. Cobb County is on the hook for $15 million a year. If only that were the worst of it. Look at Oakland itself. At the peak of Oco, Mount Davis perches over the stadium. The addition that got Al Davis to move back here. And only became another mistake on top of decades of mistakes for the city. It was a $500 million endeavor. and it was never received well by locals to begin with. The only reward it brought about was a further cascade of the city of Oakland into ruin. A monument to corporate welfare and past regrets. Only 25 years after building their golden calf, the Raiders are long gone and Mount Davis is near permanently covered in tarp. The city of Oakland is still paying it off, and will be doing so for a while to come. Want something else everyone hates? The renovation of Soldier Field. Routinely mocked, near universally despised by locals, and it's backfired on the city in general. The city of Chicago invested $387 million in municipal bonds to do it. It'll be paid by tourism, politicians say. Problem is, it hasn't. Like most economists sworn, the tourism into the city hasn't offset the costs paid. The bonds have been regularly deferred, and out of that original investment, they now owe about $640 million. Even worse, thanks to years of political mismanagement, the Bears are seeking to leave for their own field in the suburbs. Chicago will be left holding the bag, and it's mostly their own fault. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis is another cautionary tale. People tend to do stupid things when a team's in a championship window. Cities are no different. Jim Irsay was able to get an unbelievable deal, putting down only $100 million of his own cash on a $700 million project. Pretty easy to do when you're roughly the only game in town. The city still owes over $600 million on the damn thing, not to be paid off until 2037. Hell, they were still paying off the RCA Dome when they demolished the fucker for the new shrine. Also, the Colts can opt out of their lease if they aren't a top 5 value franchise at the end of the decade. They're currently about 20th. Good luck. And then there's Paul Brown Stadium. Oh boy, did Mike Brown bend the city of Cincinnati over a barrel. Back in the late 90s, the multi-purpose stadiums were showing their flaws. And if Brown didn't get a new place to play, he threatened to move the team to another location where they'd suck ass. It was enough for local politicians to cave. Out of a $450 million project, the Bengals only chipped in $25 million. There's also a state-of-the-art clause in the deal, which dictates that the Bengals could ask for the city to pay for whatever upgrade any other stadium had. The ramifications of this move have been felt for decades. Hamilton County suffered immensely. At one point, stadium costs made up over 16% of the county's entire budget. Tens of millions of dollars in budget shortfalls every year, forcing cuts in nearly every sector. It's the poster child for disastrous repercussions for a city, yet most cities will do it for one reason. They don't want to be put on the hook for a team leaving. Short-term fears of being vilified and thrown out of office by locals. When the bill comes due, they're going to be long gone, there's no risk. That's why it keeps happening. And that's why it's a hard cycle to break. You may ask if there are any owners that have taken the brunt of a stadium's construction cost. The answer is yes. It's relatively recent as well. And it hurts me to say that one of the owners that did this was Stan Kroenke. Yes, the same owner that threw an entire city under the bus and forced the NFL to pay them hush money to keep their finances secret. As much as I loathe his means to an end, I'll give him credit for one thing. He took no public funding to build SoFi Stadium. Have you seen that place? It's a mega shrine devoted to the pigskin. A $5 billion enterprise that no sane individual would dare take on without a government handout. Yet he and his partners did it. He did it in California, of all places. All he had to do was buy the land, secure private loans, get the approvals, and build away. Los Angeles is giving them tax breaks, but he and his partners keep all the profits as ski events flock to them. Ironically, St. Louis ended up agreeing to give them a shitload of public funding for a new stadium to stay, but Kroenke gave them the bird while burying them. Bill Foley is another owner who did this in the land of free public money known as Las Vegas. T-Mobile Arena is privately funded, and the expansion fee was paid out of his own pocket. And even he's questioned why so much public funding goes towards stadium construction. Yet their stories are a rare sight in North America. And the grift keeps on grifting. Everyone and their mother can see that the cities and states are getting ripped off exponentially in these deals. Graveyard of suckers being trapped in a cycle of debt is a goddamn mile long. And the worst part of it all is that there's no clear solution to it. You can scream that the owner should foot the entire bill, take out hefty loans to pay for the endeavor. It'd be logical in a vacuum, but it's ignoring the human element. If the city doesn't want to be pegged for a brand new stadium, there are at least 3 or 4 other towns that would spread their cheeks for the honor. The teams are the ones that have the power.
Spread their cheeks.
Why would an owner suffer the brunt when he knows he'll get it somewhere? He could even get a state-of-the-art clause like so many teams are getting nowadays. The sirens call lures many politicians to a watery grave. Las Vegas, Buffalo, and Nashville are just the newest examples of the victim being lured to a trap. You'll get your prestige, but it'll come at a cost. It might take decades to realize, but it'll happen. You aren't immune to it. The regret tends to smack you in the face.
Yeah.
But what you've got there is he's right in what he's saying. It's the greed of the owners to take to wherever they want to go. But if you've got a franchise and you're the owner and it's losing money in one area and someone offers you something to go somewhere else, I think you should. I still think the owners or the owning franchise should build their own stadiums. But I can understand the government's giving them tax breaks. I get that. Do it for loads of companies. It's not just in sport.
Yeah.
You know, over here, people like Amazon, Microsoft, companies like that, all get massive tax breaks from the government over here. So I'd like to do things over here because it brings business, it brings employment opportunities, it brings tourism, it brings all kinds of trade. Like he says, one trade goes in, one trade goes out, sort of thing. But I just, I love a good stadium, don't we?
Yeah, I love a good. But what I was thinking before was in the NFL when they might spend, like for example, $5 billion on a stadium, and how many games are you actually going to play at that stadium?
Well, it's probably 8 in it, but then you want to attract it to like other things like concerts.
Yeah.
Then there's loads of other things that so I think SoFi Stadium's going to probably host a World Cup final maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Next time, so you're going to get. It's not just you're not building it for just one season. You're building it for the next 20, 30 years. But at the same time, it'd be interesting to find out how they work with college stadiums, whether they're publicly funded.
Yeah.
Or whether whether they get public funds towards it. They should do because it's part of the town where they are, sort of thing. I'm sure
I reckon they would, yeah.
But then you might get somewhere like Oregon that's funded by Nike, and then it's like they may get the funding that comes from Nike, sort of thing. So I don't know, but I'm one of them. I think councils and governments. I don't know what you call them in the USA.
Did you notice there in the same sentence you
or
said both Nike and Nike?
No, Knight.
Oh, I thought you said
Knight. Easy on
oh,
Nike, innit?
right.
Yeah.
I thought you said Nike and then said Nike a
Nike.
second later.
Yeah. But I think municipalities and all they should pay towards giving something back to the stadium design and build, and the fact that they've attracted sports teams into the town.
They must do. Some of the college stadiums are absolutely massive.
Yeah, I'm sure the college stadiums do get probably subsidised.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about NFL or NBA or whatever arenas and stadiums you're building, because they do bring stuff in there. They bring employment opportunities, like I say, and all the different things that come with it. But at the same time, I think the owners should be there there should be a percentage, like 95%, 5%, or 100% by the owners, but then get tax breaks and different sort of like financial incentives to be there anyway.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's interesting. I do like that channel. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great. The neighbourhood trees, good. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed that too. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers.